Heavy Duty Hub podcast, powered by Key Advisors, driving real dealership profit. Today we're in episode number 5, and the topic for today, which is probably going to be covered in the next 2 to 3 podcast episodes because it is such a big topic and one that we really need to get deeply into. It's one of our favorite topics too, because it usually leads to a lot of discussion, sometimes a lot of pushback, but it's so important in everything we do in the parts department. And that topic, obsolescence. And we are talking about obsolescence. We're not going to talk about slow moving or potentially profitable or stuff that we have to keep. We're going to talk about obsolescence because that's truly what it is. And Chris, I know this is one of your favorite topics to get into.
It is 100%. And thank you. I am Chris Norris, by the way.
And I'm Jeremy, of course.
And if you don't believe that we are real people, that is a prime example. So we'll give you our introductions. But yes, obsolescence to me is huge in what you do and need to pay attention to every day in your dealership. And as Jeremy alluded to, this is a really big topic, but one we want to really address because I am very passionate about obsolescence and its impact on the dealership world. So when we think about obsolescence and kind of what goes into it, the impacts that it drives, it's so many. And just ignoring it, it doesn't go away. Obsolescence, in theory, is one of the easiest things in your dealership to eliminate control, but only if you understand how it got there in the first place.
With obsolescence, it's so funny because in all the dealerships that we've been into, that we're currently engaged with, you hear all kinds of excuses as to why their business is different. And I love hearing that. You know, I'm now in my 36th year of doing this, and I've heard all the excuses out there. And I'm here to tell you right now, your business is not different. There's 3 things you cannot argue with in this business: math, facts, and logic. Because they prove true time and time again. So whether you're a truck dealer, whether you're a trailer dealer, whether you're an automotive dealer, whether you're a heavy equipment dealer, obsolescence is obsolescence. And there's fact and math and logic behind the numbers. And we're going to get into that a little bit today as we go through this discussion. So we'll dive deep into that right off the bat. The reason we call it obsolescence is once a part hits a certain time period with no sales and no receipts of that inventory, there's only a certain percentage chance that you're going to sell that part ever again. And the math and logic behind that prove time and time again that if you have a part that is from 0 to 6 months, 0 to 6 months, you've sold it or you've received it, you have about an 85% of selling part. Now, down in the months and the different percentages, but overall, 0 to 6 months, you have about an 85% chance of selling. Once that part reaches about the 7th, 8th month, from the 7th or 8th month to the 12th month, you have about a 15% chance of selling that part again. And once that part has reached over 12 months, you now only have a 2% chance of ever selling that part again. Now, this holds true again in trailer, truck, automotive, heavy equipment. Facts are what they are. The math is what it is. Those are the numbers. Now, you can call it anything you like. We've seen all kinds of companies set their obsolescence limits at 24 months or 36 months. We've even seen some set it at 5, 6, 7, 8 years before they call it obsolescence. But the facts and the math show that once you've gone past that 12 months with no receipts, with no sales, your chances are less than 2% of ever selling that part again.
And Jeremy, to your point, you always have those people that say, oh, I paid X for this part. There's value. I'm not throwing it out. I'm not getting rid of it. And I know that one day somebody's going to walk through that door and they're going to want it, and I'm going to be the only one to have it. Now, that statement I just said sounds great in theory until you realize that I don't care how big of a building you are in, we all have a certain size and limit to space of parts we can store. That's number one. The second piece is that when we do our due diligence and we maintain our inventory and we're doing our inventory integrity, meaning we're doing our cycle counts, an annual inventory, all those pieces, the piece that gets lost in this is that a lot don't understand that every time someone touches that part, if that part was $1, every hand that touches it, the part and cost go up because there's labor involved, handling, as some people like to call that. So if you don't look and there's no demand, meaning no one's asking or wanting that part, and we just let it sit there and we're counting it constantly, we're inventorying it every year. What happens is if that part was $1 after a year, it's no longer $1. It's now maybe $1.25 or $1.10. And for every year, it just keeps going up and up and up. So at what point do you have to say, great, I had it for 3 years, someone came in and I sell it for $1.25, but my holding cost of that part is now $2 based on handling. Another piece of that people don't really think about, taxing. A lot of states in the United States tax your inventory value. So you pay a tax on what the dollar amount or value of your parts inventory every year. So having parts that don't move or earn money or earn their keep to be on your shelf, that comes and affects your bottom line directly.
It really does. That's what a lot of people kind of lose when they start thinking about this. When we purchase inventory, we have to purchase it. Therefore, that inventory costs us money to put on the shelf. And we talk a lot when we engage with customers about their gross return on their inventory performance, their net return on their inventory performance. It's just like us. If we're playing the stock market or if we're investing, do we want our money to make money? Or do we want our money to just sit there stagnant and actually cost us money in the long run? Of course, we want it to make money. We want it to grow. We want it to be invested properly. So when we purchase inventory, we purchase it. We have to pay for it. And I equate obsolescence, and this is something that really never fails. When we're in a class, I always use the coffee can because almost all of us, our grandfather, our father, somebody in our family has their coffee can. Or cans. And this can had every nut you could possibly imagine. And I always tell people to think about this. Your grandfather, your father, probably you, have a coffee can or a junk drawer in your house. And every time you go buy that furniture from IKEA, Every time you buy something that you have to put together, or if you have to run to the store and grab a couple nuts, bolts, screws, or fasteners, you always take what's left over and you always throw them in that coffee can because you might need them someday. Now realize you've never needed them up until this point in your life. Now you're going to put them in a coffee can because you might need them. And what happens? Inevitably, inevitably, you buy something else and you need a screw or a fastener. So you grab that can and you dig that coffee can and you're digging through it, digging through it. You've got it all spread out on the counter. Or you're digging through your junk drawer because you know you've got something in there and you never have what you need. You never have what you need. So you go out and buy more. And you take the remainder of what you have and you throw in that coffee can because, I needed it. I didn't have it. I'm going to have it next time. And it sits in that coffee can until those coffee cans start to multiply and then you have 3 or 4 coffee cans in your garage. Each and every one of us has either done it or had a family member that's done it. It's the same way with obsolescence. They get emotional. I needed that part once. I got to have it on the shelf. Or I saw that part break once. We better have one in case I need it. Oh, I forgot this part was here. We have to sell these all the time. This part is going to be money and profitable. We have to have it. All those are emotional. None of them are based on fact, math, and logic. So the idea of owning a part and making money with that part is really quite ridiculous. I mean, when we think about it, how much obsolescence do you have in your inventory? So think about that number, that dollar amount, those amount of parts sitting on your shelf for the possibility, the 2% chance possibility that eventually someday you might sell this and make a profit. If you truly make a profit, number one, did you make a profit on all the other stuff you've kept laying around for all these years? No. Now, we are not advocating that we throw anything away. Obviously, you don't want to ever throw stuff away if you don't have to. Can we return it? Can we sell it? And we'll get a lot more into that in the next podcast of what we do with it, how to prevent it. But the important thing is knowing it's there. And the other thing that really gets to me is when you have people that want to write it down. Well, you're still taking that write off. You paid $100 for that part that's on your shelf. So if you write it down to a penny, where does that $99.99 charge go?
You still
It
paid
has
for it.
exactly. You still paid for it.
Yep. Yes, indeed. I had a huge smile on my face, Jeremy, while you were talking about the coffee can because it just brought up this great memory
Yeah.
of my grandfather was Mr. Coffee Can to the point I can tell you the brand because there was one brand of coffee that those coffee cans were coming from. So it just was a great memory. And then the other side of that too, just to expand on what you said, you kept buying more because you couldn't find it. Well, that's the same thing with writing it down, or better yet, I'm just going to write it off, but I'm not going to remove it. I'm going to have it on the shelf. So now you have a part that you've technically removed from your inventory, still on the shelf. What are the odds or how long before it gets brought back in again? So that's one side of that. The other side, too, that really doesn't get thought about is if it's not in my business system, how do I know I have it? You lose visibility of it over time. So when it comes to those obsolescence and those obsolete parts, to me, if it's not good enough to be in my business system where I have visibility, then I have no reason for it to even be on my shelf. That's what you've got to really look at. The cause and effect to keeping it on your shelf to begin with. 2%, less than a 2% chance to sell a part. I want 90%. I want 98%. It's like you said, going to Las Vegas and playing the odds. I want to sit at the table that's going to give me the best odds to win, not the worst. So that's where if we get really smart and diligent about our obsolescence, looking at it, making a plan, and to Jeremy's point again, we are not going to have a one podcast talk on obsolescence. This could be 2, 3, even 4 more just because of how important this is and what is involved in it. And once you get an understanding and you have a defined policy or procedure on how to handle and prevent obsolescence, it gets easy. It's when you don't, it just keeps going and it gets out of hand. And it's not that you want to do the wrong thing, but you end up being forced to do the wrong thing because you are just being reactionary, emotional, and reactive.
Right.
So it was Maxwell House, by the way.
Yeah, I think everybody had the Maxwell House can of coffee in their father's garage or grandpa's garage. You know, my father was a mechanic his whole entire life, and he retired almost 20 years ago from being a mechanic. He did other things after he retired, but think about an individual who's been retired for 20 years. And this is something me and my dad always go round and round about, because if I walk out into his shop right now, everything is still there. Everything. Now, he can't possibly do any of the work that he has the tools for. He can't possibly use any of the parts that he has out there because he doesn't have vehicles that any of those parts fit. He's got probably 30 Maxwell House coffee cans out in that shop full of nuts and bolts and washers and screws. But again, it's all useless. He's paid the money for that stuff. And there it sits. Useless. It's not doing anything for him. It's not making him money. Now, can he go out and sit in his garage and look at all his stuff? Yep. But that's all he can do because he can't use it. It has become obsolete. And that's what people don't recognize. They get so attached to the parts that are in their inventory that they don't want to let go. It's almost like watching an episode of Hoarders over and over again, where these people just don't want to let go of their stuff.
Yep. I don't disagree at all with that statement. You go in and we work with a lot of different dealerships, from very large dealership groups down to single owner operators. And to say one is better than the other, I can't say that, because I've had singles that are very good, very organized, very neat. I've had big ones that are and are not. So, to your point, when you look at your garage and sitting in with your stuff, that's a good feeling, but it's not a great feeling. I want to sell my parts that I have. The purpose of an inventory is to sell, not to sit and collect dust. So when you think of it that way, you kind of almost have to change your mindset from that, hey, I paid for this once, it's just there, I'm not getting rid of it, to there's a process, right? Once we set a time limit, whatever your time limit is great. It's your time limit. But once it gets there and there's no movement, that's when we have to make a decision. And I should have a checklist, and we'll talk more about that later, of just going through 8 to 10 things that I went down and I exhausted all my options. Now the only thing I have left to do is possibly put it in a dumpster or a metal bin to get something for it. So
Again, that's the whole key, is getting people to change the way they think. Again, our inventory is meant to sell. And if we want to be profitable as a company or as a dealer, we need to put profit to the bottom line. And after we purchase inventory, pay our expenses, our employees, our vehicles, our rent, our electric, after paying all those expenses, hopefully we have some net left over to put back into the bank to sustain our business and keep it growing. But if we're using all of that net to buy more and more and more obsolete inventory, before long, we're out of business because we've spent so much money on inventory and we have so much money wrapped up in inventory that is not producing a return. It affects our capability to be a successful company.
100% agree with that statement. Hard to believe we've already are out of time and we barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, all right. It's like pulling a pin on a grenade. You pull that pin, boy, I get to roll in and I can't stop.
Trust me when I tell you, I get it 100%. So I think it's important, that you guys keep watching, letting us know what you want to talk about. We're here for you. And if you want to reach us, check out keyadvisors.com. We are specialists with dealerships. Any concern, problem, whether it's accounting, parts, service, sales, we have technical experts that can help you in any aspect of your business that you are struggling with or want to improve upon. So you can reach us at www.keyadvisors.com, or you can email us directly at info@keyadvisors.com. And Jeremy, I'll turn it over to you for our part.
You can also reach out to us at the heavydutypod@gmail.com. And you can find us Heavy Duty Hub heavydutyhub.net. It's not .com, it's .net. Heavydutyhub.net online. And again, anything you have as far as topics you want us to discuss, issues you want us to dive into, we're more than happy to do that. And stay tuned because episode 6 and probably episode 7 and maybe even episode 8 will continue this obsolescence discussion. But we'll get more into number 1, how do you prevent it? And number 2, what do you do if you end up with obsolescence? Because again, we never want to see you just throw stuff away. We want to try and get some money back for you to put back in your pocket to make your dealership profitable. So
100%.
Yep. So that's all for this episode. We'll see you on the next one, episode number 6, coming your way.
And remember, like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody.